In Rwanda, we say that our country is so beautiful that God spends the day elsewhere, but he sleeps in Rwanda. But sadly, in 1994, God wept in Rwanda. On the 6th of April, 1994, the plane that was carrying the former president of Rwanda got shot down. And instantly, one of the worst genocides in the history of mankind started. In the space of 100 days, 1 million people were massacred. That is 10,000 people every day for 100 days. For Americans, the one tragedy that you might know is 9/11. In Rwanda, we had 3 9/11 every day for 100 days. And the world abandoned Rwanda because Rwanda was a place of no strategic interests. My name is Michel, and one of my life's questions has been, how do we live after such an atrocity? You see, when you hear an atrocities, we see its consequences in the number of people that die. But what about those that have to live after? What about the children of the survivors, the children of the perpetrators that have to live after? 30 years later, Rwanda is a country that is healing. But we say never again. But you see, it is not enough to have good intentions. Part of it is we have to look deeply at ourselves and say, what got us here? What made a neighbor kill their own neighbor? And we know what got us here. Some of it is the habits and mindsets, such as lack of critical thinking, doing things because you are told to do, this us versus them mentality, but then most of all, a high obedience to authority. So if we are to change this new generation, it is important that we find the habits and virtues that are opposite to these. And that's why we think that in order to prevent history from happening again, we need to create environments where we value critical thinking, we encourage open dialogue, and then we embrace differences. Because we are different, it doesn't mean that we are enemies. And for the last 13 years, that's what we've been doing. We've been running a debate program, and our idea is, how do we create a culture where people disagree passionately and constructively without seeing each other as enemies? And we do it in 3 ways. We do student training, student competition, and also teacher training. For the last 13 years, we are currently working with 160 schools in Rwanda and more than 6,400 students each year. And our aim is that we're going to continually grow. But you see, it might be easy to listen to what happened and see what happened in Rwanda and say, there must be something wrong with these Rwandans. But the reality is, what happened in Rwanda can happen anywhere. Each one of us is able of doing what the worst of each one of us can do. And that's why we think, as those who have suffered the consequences of these, that we have a responsibility to take our lessons and teach others. That's why in the next few years, we want to scale beyond Rwanda and then be able to go to Uganda and also in South Sudan. But a few years ago, we started a program because, having lived in the US, I could see that some of the things that we saw in Rwanda were happening in the US. And it used to be very, very hard for Americans to understand that they could learn a few things from Rwanda about pluralization, dehumanization. But I can tell you, we no longer have that problem. And that's why, for the last 10 years, we've been running a program called Voices from the Post-Genocide Generation, where we teach about Rwanda, and we teach about not only what led to violence, but then also what people in Rwanda are trying to do. We say, if we are trying, if us Rwandans are trying, no one has an excuse. In iDebate, we say that conflict is inherent to human beings, but then that violence is a choice. And I invite you all to come and be part of us. We want to raise $1 million for the next 3 years. And we also want partners and learning institutions and whoever can come in to make sure that whatever we learned from Rwanda and whatever happened in Rwanda does not happen again. Thank you very much.